What's up guys, Robert Rule of Two Review here, and today we finally get to see the Order 1886. So the Order 1886 has kind of been a weird beast for me personally, as it's a game developed by Ready at Dawn, and I think it's being published by Santa Monica Studios, PlayStation 4 exclusive. Those two teams, Santa Monica and Ready at Dawn, are two fantastic teams. I believe in them big time. They've done a lot of work on the God of War series. Sorry, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. The God of War franchise, that's actually Santa Monica's baby. And I'm a huge fan of that. They've done amazing things for the PlayStation brand as a console. And of course, they've tapped into some of the most, unbelievable potential of the systems, the platforms that they've worked on for Sony, the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 3. And so you got to assume that they're going to be doing the same thing going forward. And so the Order 1886 was shown at E3 last year, just, in the E3 before the PlayStation 4 had launched. And all we kind of really saw was sort of I don't want to say it's a tech demo, it was really kind of just a CGI trailer for the game, setting up really just the idea of the setting for what we're going to be doing. And so when you consider that the setting is kind of like an old historical, Victorian kind of setting, only using sort of like a modern day and age kind of weaponry, it's a very unique kind of hybrid combination of two different periods of history with a lot of fantastical sci-fi elements and apparently some horror elements. The idea, I think, is that there are some, I don't know how much we're supposed to know about if they're vampires or just demons or beasts or whatever. I'm pretty sure it's vampires is what you're going to be fighting. So you're in this, old Victorian setting while using futuristic weapons, all the while you're fighting vampires. So it's a really neat setting. It's a great idea. It's a very cool spin and twist on history, a previous well-known and well-documented time period. And that's always fun when you explore it in anything, let alone a video game setting. So again, for the PlayStation 4, from Ready at Dawn in Santa Monica, with a fantastic historical spin fighting vampires. That sounds badass. And the trailer looked okay, the one that we saw at E3 last year. So just my personal feelings on it is that even though it was a great idea and I wanted to believe that it could be something cool, I definitely have to admit that when I first saw it at E3 last year, it didn't really do a lot for me overall, just because it was so vague and it was just a CGI trailer. So I kind of didn't really care too much once I actually sat down and thought about it a few days later. And then, in the months now since the PlayStation 4 had launched, it's a game that a lot of people, especially PlayStation fans, will talk about. And in defending, the slow year that the PlayStation 4 is having, they say, well, the Order 1886 is coming. Some of my friends and my younger brother are part of that group, and they're very big at supporting that game, which is totally cool. I get it. It really is and could be a big game. However, for me, because we saw so little and we didn't know until just recently that it was confirmed to still be coming out in 2014, it was never a game that I could keep on my radar. And even if it was on my radar, I didn't even know if I was excited for it, because again, we only saw just a fairly mediocre trailer, all CG, no gameplay, that didn't really show or tell us a whole bunch. It was kind of just to say that this title is in the works and it's from these great studios. So there's obviously a lot, to be excited about when thinking about the Order 1886 because of some of those factors. It's a PS4 next-gen game by two fantastic studios, but it didn't really do a lot to excite me and, I think some other people as well. So that brings us to today, where we finally got to see both a new story-related trailer and some gameplay has finally showed up on the internet as well, which is really great. There's a few, you can find a bunch of clips on YouTube from random people who were able to post some of the gameplay footage. And so that was really, really cool. We knew for a few days that we were going to be getting some Order 1886 info coming soon. And as somebody who wanted to believe in the game and wants reasons to be excited for the PlayStation 4, I was really hoping and looking forward to this, hoping that it was going to be something that was going to really show me this game is going to matter, it's going to be great, and you should use it to consider the potential success of the PlayStation 4. I shouldn't say success. My potential desire for the PlayStation 4. And that still comes with the caveat of the fact that I am excited for and do desire a PlayStation 4. I love Sony and I love the PlayStation brand, as I've said on many videos. Even though Nintendo is my overall favorite company, the last generation, the PlayStation 3 was my favorite system, even over the Wii. So I have all the reasons in the world to believe in and be excited about the PlayStation 4. However, because we're waiting for good games to start coming and announcements about good games, it's the launch year and they're notoriously slow for any system, and the PlayStation 4 is no exception. So I've been looking for reasons to be excited, to know I want to get one as soon as possible. So 1886, the trailer came out today. I was hoping it was going to be awesome and start to persuade me. And it's kind of done that. So what we're looking at here, the real details, here's where they start is, so IGN posted an article from one Colin Moriarty. Colin Moriarty, excuse me, is one of my favorite editors from IGN. I love IGN, and I think Colin is a great guy. Sometimes his opinions can be harsh and they piss me off, but no more so than any other one that I know personally. He's just another nerd and another gamer who has similar and sometimes varying opinions, and that's how this world works. So I've never held him back for that. I love the guy, and he is a devout Sony and PlayStation fan. He is a fanboy in the truest sense of the word, and I think that that's fine. So when it came time for him to go and see this preview of the game and then write up his article, I was excited, and he really only had okay things to say about it, you know. And I read that earlier today while I was at work, hours before I got to watch the trailers just a few minutes ago before recording. And he said that, to summarize what he said, and I'll post his link below, he said that there's a lot to be excited about. A lot of the setting and the gameplay mechanics look and could be great, but there was a lot of issues he saw, production value problems and issues with the transitions, a lot of sound quality things going on. And so he said, and the fact that when he talked about the actual gameplay, he mentioned that it looks and feels very much like Gears of War. And that is a good and a bad thing. So I'll touch on that in a minute, why it's both for me. But so that's kind of what he said. And I was sort of like, I guess I expected more, A, from the game, and B, from Colin Moriarty, the uber PlayStation fanboy's opinion. So, yet he kind of came at it from this very cautious kind of perspective of there's a lot to be excited about, but there's also a lot to be concerned about. That's almost verbatim how he titled his article. And from both seeing and reading that, I can definitely agree at this point. And when you consider he's such a devout PlayStation fanboy, what I like about this news is that he's being as objective as possible. And if he says there's cause to be concerned, that definitely means something, because he's not letting his fanboyism get in the way and say, oh, it looks great just because it's going to be PS4. And I always appreciate that, So I guess let's kind of just get into the details of what it is that I saw and how I feel about it and what maybe you guys are going to feel about it. So I discussed my opinions about the game going into seeing the footage and reading the article today. Now I've read the article, heard and thought about Colin's opinions, seen the gameplay and the story-related trailer that released today. And so what do I think? Well, the comparison to Gears of War, gameplay-wise, from the gameplay video, is pretty darn accurate. And it should be noted that I love Gears of War. I have no problem with the simplicity of that game just being a regular old cover shooter, and it does what it does. It looks amazing. It plays fantastically. It's all but perfect. There's like no glitches or bugs in that game. And it was also the game, it was also the game that kind of created that, or it didn't create it. That was Resident Evil 4. But what Gears of War did is perfected it for the last generation at the time that generation was new. And a plethora of games and franchises and play styles came out of the success of Gears of War. So it gets all the credit for that, that and Resident Evil 4. So, and I love it. I think it's fine for that because it is the series that made it what it is, and it has the right to be exactly what it is. So the idea of another game that's a really cool game that I would hopefully enjoy, looking, feeling, and playing like Gears of War is a fine thing. That makes me completely excited in the respect that I'm sure it's going to be fun to play. The problems that I saw, though, and there were some, and I was really, really upset to see this, is I definitely will agree with what Colin had said, that the production and the transitional issues are present, and man, they are. I mean, what I was seeing was very disjointed, the way it would cut awkwardly from scene to scene, but it was obviously trying to be seamless. It just felt very, very strange and kind of just sketchy, or I don't know, it's kind of skirted along, and it was very chunky and blocky, as it did that. And I was motioning as I said that. That's why I sounded funny when I did that, and that was kind of a little bit jarring to watch, but something that you hope would be fixed down the road. And the sound issues, man, the sound was just atrocious. There was so many problems, and it was just cutting in and out, and it didn't sound very smooth, and it took you out of the moment. And that was all very kind of tough things to watch. So it's really unfortunate, as was mentioned in the article, when you consider that, yes, the game is not done, so these things could be fixed. That's true. However, they're still saying the game is coming out this year. So you got to wonder how much time they're going to have to fix that stuff, or if they're going to end up releasing a buggy game that they have to patch down the road. And hopefully that is not the case. But that being said, we know that that's the kind of stuff that could be fixed and is not necessarily indicative of the final version. So as much as it was unfortunate, I don't really want to use that to hold back the game too much. But like I said, you definitely can say that you can compare it to Gears of War in its presentation, as well as how the mechanics seem to work and the cover-based shooting. Behind these little knee-high walls. Peering over and, doing your aim down sight shots and around the corner and, sticking your head around and doing these shots and doing whatever. It's only about 2.5 minutes long, what I saw. And it didn't show a whole lot of gameplay. So that's the thing. What we saw, it looked completely stock and not new or unique at all, but it looked good. And so that was fine. That game can come out and play completely like that and be nothing ambitious and nothing new. And I'm sure I would still enjoy it, and a lot of people would, because, again, that's why I like things like Gears of War and Call of Duty, so I'm not going to blame a new franchise for doing it if they do it well. And it looked like it definitely could turn out really well and be really fun, so that part was cool. What I didn't like is, based on what they chose to show us, there were so many moments where they were cutting in and out between these obvious like CG cutscenes that would just be 10 or 15 seconds long, exchanging the dialogue between characters because they were doing something and busting into a room and grabbing an item and looking at this, and it just was also very much taking me out of the moment. I could imagine if I was playing that game and I was trying to get involved and immersed in this shootout scenario with this really cool game that I'd be excited to be playing, I'd be like, what the fuck? Stop cutting out. I don't want to see anything. Let me shoot a bunch of bad guys for like at least 20 or 30 minutes straight before you have to interrupt me. And it was consistent interruption, stuff that was obviously taking control away from the player for these brief little glimpses of cinematic moments. And that stuff bothers me. The Devil May Cry game from last year, DMC, that's a good example of a really great game that I enjoyed, but they consistently took that control away from the player every 5 or 6 minutes as you would move from scene to scene, and it drove me bonkers, you guys. Like, I hate that stuff. Let the game immerse the player for large sections at a time, please. That's the way I like it, I should say. Maybe not everyone does, and for those people, this stuff would be fine. But this is my opinion. That's how I feel about that stuff, and I really didn't like it. And I'm worried that the Order 1886 may be trying to do that, using this whole quote-unquote power of the next generation and the PlayStation 4. They might get a little overzealous and too ambitious trying to show us all this fancy stuff, and they might actually interrupt the flow and the feel of a natural gameplay setting. Again, all speculation. It's 2.5 minutes of footage. I did not play it. I was only watching someone else play it. So this is all speculation. But we're gamers. We can watch this stuff and still get a pretty good idea of what's going on. So that's kind of what I'm basing these opinions on. The last thing I'll touch on is the fact that the game is doing something that doesn't seem to be too super new. And is that a big deal or is that not a big deal? For myself, it's both. I'm going to touch about why it's not a big deal so I can end on the positive, or why it is a big deal, sorry, so that I can end on a positive note. To me, it's a big deal because I want to see what this next generation can do. There's so much hype and buzz going on with it right now. The PlayStation 4, by coincidence, is also the system we're talking about. That's the system that's been breaking records with how fast it's been selling. And I think that's great in the sense that I love Sony and I want them to see success in the gaming side. And I believe the PlayStation 4 is going to be a fucking phenomenal system, and I can't wait to own one because I know down the road it's going to be amazing. But right now, there's really nothing going on. So it's very baffling to me that whereas the Wii U had the same lack of hardware for a while, and after its initial sales, it kind of slowed down, the PlayStation 4 may or may not do that. And I just think that that's weird because why would people keep buying the PlayStation 4 when there's nothing to do or play or even a whole lot to get excited about now? But the Wii U didn't, went through the opposite where, yes, there also wasn't stuff to play or be excited for a while. And then people learned that and they stopped buying it, which is fine. Don't buy it if there's nothing to compelling you. But there can't be a whole lot compelling for the PlayStation 4 right now, and people seem to still be buying it. So, but that's a bittersweet thing because, like I said, at the end of the day, I'm still just glad that people are buying it. I'm glad Sony's getting success, and I know, the system. I want it to be successful, so it's still a good thing. So anyway, the reason I bring that up is because talking about this hype in this next generation, it's like I kind of am at the point where I want the console gaming space to keep moving forward, to keep doing something. To me, moving forward isn't just making the graphics a little bit better every time, and it's not slight tweaks on the controller interface. It's brand new gameplay experiences, whole new infrastructures, radically different controller and gameplay implementation and user interface, and all that stuff combined. Those are the kind of things that, to me, make stuff next gen anymore because graphics are mattering less and less nowadays. And there's other things that I think console gaming can keep doing without sacrificing the purity and the joy of why we love to do it. And The Order 1886 is a pretty high-profile game coming out for the PS4, and I would like it if it could be something that could come out within this first slow year of the system's life and say, hey, look, this is what you can be doing next gen. This is what you can do with the PlayStation 4 down the road. Here's the first little glimpse of what you're going to be seeing over the next 5 to 10 years of these 3 new consoles. This is one possibility. Bam, fucking look at it. And it's not doing that. It's really just another shooter. It's another shooter. And while that's great for what it is, and if it turns out to be pretty good, it's a game that I will absolutely buy for my PlayStation 4. But what I was hoping was to see a game that would make me want to buy the PlayStation 4. The game that would be the next Metroid, or the next Halo, or the next Zelda. The game that says, or Uncharted, or God of War. The game that says, well, you may not have this system now, but bam, this fucking game's coming out, so you better go buy one. And I'd be like, oh shit, I better go buy one because that's the fucking game I want. Right now, everything I've seen and read about The Order 1886, as much as I want it to be this, so this is not coming from a pessimistic perspective. I want it to be this, but it has not been the game that excites me or makes me want to go buy a PS4 like I was hoping it would be. And maybe it doesn't have to be that way, you know, or maybe it doesn't have to be that, I should say. Maybe it's just going to be another great game to add to your library when you already have a PS4. That, again, is also something that is not a bad thing. It has the right to have that identity. As long as it becomes a great, excellent shooter in the long run, that's fine. That's all I would ever really want it to be, you know? So it might not be a system seller, but it could be a game worthy of owning for $60 once it comes out, you know? The game looked really good. It was definitely very pretty. The in-engine stuff that you could tell was the gameplay was impressive. It didn't look really a lot better than anything we saw from the last gen HD systems, the PS3 or the Xbox 360. It even looked visually on par with the Gears of War games, because those games are fucking unbelievable how good they look. Your opinion on the gameplay aside, this is almost not debatable. They are some of the best looking video games that have ever been created, and they still stand that way. So, I mean, The Order 1886 is a good example of a game that had really fantastic camera and character animation movements. That was the most next-gen thing I saw going on visually. But overall, the package still, while it looked very good, and I would enjoy showing it to people to say, look how good this game looks, it didn't blow me away next gen wise. It was just a pretty game. It was just a very pretty game, you know, nothing to write home about. So it's just going to be interesting to see what we're going to be doing going forward, you know, with this next generation. The Order looks like it could still go either way. So I was hoping to be totally sold and blown away by it. And I wasn't turned off by it. Some people have way harsher opinions on it that I've seen than I do. Those people are freaking out about a lot. I mean, I know I talked about some negative things. I like to think I'm not freaking out. I've seen some bad shit on the internet already. I think it is an okay looking game, and I do think the potential is still there if they get it really kind of polished out closer to release, and we know when it's going to come out, and we know it's going to be not buggy, and get some more ideas about what the game is going to do and how they're going to use the setting to the game's advantage. That game could turn out to still be phenomenal. I mean, it could go either way. I just was hoping today would be the day to sell me on it, and it sadly was not. So there you go. That's my long rant and kind of tirade and all my whole mix of emotions and feelings on the New Order 1886 gameplay and trailer. What do you guys think? Were you fans of it going into it? Were you excited about it or not going into this stuff? Have you seen the gameplay? And if you have, what do you think? Do you agree with my assessments or some of the other assessments Colin or other people are making? Or do you think that they're totally bollocks and I'm totally batshit crazy and you think it looks amazing or terribly shitty? I mean, either or. Whatever it is you guys feel, definitely please share it below, you know, because it's going to be a pretty high-profile game, and hopefully it's something that we can all look forward to for the PlayStation 4. Okay, guys, that's it for The Order 1886 today. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, if you like what I'm doing, you can feel free to subscribe, like, and share the video, and share your comments and your thoughts below. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you next time.